We're the future, so it's on us to make a change.
They relied on stolen footage that was never authorized for release.
There ain't no East Coast, West Coast beef.
Somebody's gonna get hurt.
The documentary did not begin as an attack on Sean Diddy Combs. It began as a project he was involved in himself. For years, Combs allowed large amounts of footage to be recorded around his personal and professional life. According to multiple accounts, the original intent was to document his career and public image, with the expectation that the final product would be shaped under his approval. That changed when his legal situation deteriorated and negotiations around the project broke down. At that point, control over the footage became disputed. Netflix proceeded with a documentary built from material that already existed, reframed around allegations, lawsuits, and testimony connected to Combs' downfall. His legal team publicly objected, calling the documentary unauthorized and claiming the footage was never approved for release. Those objections did not stop the project from airing. Once released, the documentary focused narrowly on Combs, accusations against him, his behavior, and the systems around him that allowed that behavior to continue. It did not accuse other celebrities of crimes. It did not name co-conspirators outside what was already part of public record. However, the public response quickly moved beyond what the documentary actually showed. Viewers began scrutinizing what was missing instead of what was included. They speculated about unseen footage, unshown relationships, and people who once had public associations with Combs but were not mentioned in the film. That shift, from documented facts to imagined omissions, is where the controversy truly began.
Well, what I feel about the documentary, they left a whole lot of key things out. If they was going to do something and they're going to say Sean Combs directing, it should have been a lot of people that we lost because of him. It wasn't only Big, it wasn't only Tupac.
You know who was responsible for the killing of Tupac Shakur?
No, I don't. I think that Sean now, in my mature mind, had a lot to do with the death of Tupac.
The speculation intensified because of Gene Deal. Deal, a former bodyguard for Combs, began giving interviews after the documentary aired. In those interviews, he claimed there was footage that did not make the final cut. He suggested some material was removed because it involved people who were influential or well-protected. He did not present the footage. He did not release documents. He did not name anyone directly. Those statements were not verified. Despite that, short clips from his interviews spread quickly online. In many cases, they were edited down to a few seconds, removing context and emphasizing implication over explanation. Viewers treated his status as a former insider as proof, even though no independent evidence accompanied his claims. The idea of missing footage became central. If cameras had followed Combs for years, people assumed they must have captured other celebrities as well. When those individuals did not appear in the documentary, the absence itself was treated as suspicious. Editing decisions were reframed as concealment. This is how Snoop Dogg's name entered the conversation. Not through court records, not through sworn testimony, not through investigative reporting, through online inference. Comment sections and reaction videos began linking old photos and public appearances to Deal's vague remarks. At this stage, there were still no allegations, no charges, and no verified footage involving Snoop Dogg. Only speculation driven by implication and repetition.
Tupac hit us with Hit 'Em Up, and that joint was cold. I had to make the call to Biggie, and I said, we're not gonna respond.
To understand why Snoop Dogg's name stuck, you have to go back to the mid-1990s. After Tupac Shakur was killed in 1996, tensions between Death Row Records and Bad Boy Records were still unresolved. At the time, Tupac had publicly accused Sean Combs of being connected to the violence surrounding him. Those accusations were never proven in court, but they shaped how fans interpreted events that followed. Snoop Dogg had been closely associated with Tupac and Death Row when he later appeared publicly with Combs, including television appearances and industry events. Some people saw it as reconciliation. Others saw it as betrayal. That reaction was emotional, not legal. No investigation ever concluded that Combs was responsible for Tupac's death. No evidence placed Snoop Dogg in any wrongdoing related to it. But in the court of public opinion, timing mattered more than facts. For some fans, simply being seen together after Tupac's death felt wrong. Years later, those same clips resurfaced. Podcast hosts, commentators, and former associates replayed old interviews and appearances as if they were new revelations. Context was removed. Time passed was ignored. Adult decisions made decades later were judged by unresolved anger from the past. This history became the foundation for modern speculation. When Gene Deal spoke vaguely about protected figures and unseen footage, people mapped those comments onto old grievances from the 1990s. The past supplied the suspicion. The present supplied the rumor, and then someone else stepped back into the picture, ready to reopen that old wound.
Now, if all these people knew what was going on in the situation, nobody never commented to tell anybody that. So you're part of it. You part of that snake, you know what happened to the snake. So the other situation is that even after this shit, a motherfucker with KPD, according to KPD and everybody else, and everybody know this, street know this, I was locked up. But Snoop, Daz, and the rest of them, they did a song with one of the niggas from that side who was in the car. If that's loyalty to Pac, motherfucker don't need that type of loyalty.
That someone was Suge Knight. Knight, the former CEO of Death Row Records, has had a public and bitter feud with Snoop Dogg for decades. The conflict dates back to the collapse of Death Row, disputes over contracts, and control of the label's legacy. It has never been limited to Tupac alone, despite how it's often framed online. From prison, Knight has continued giving interviews and phone call statements accusing Snoop of disloyalty, backstabbing, and secret dealings. In recent years, those accusations expanded to include claims tied to Tupac's murder and alleged attempts to protect people connected to it. None of those claims have been verified. Law enforcement has never charged Snoop Dogg in connection to Tupac's death. No warrants, subpoenas, or court filings support Knight's statements. They remain allegations made by a man with clear financial and personal motives tied to decades-old disputes. Context matters here. Knight has been incarcerated since 2018. Every few years, a new version of the same story emerges, often timed with renewed public interest in Tupac, Death Row, or Snoop's career. The details change, the accusations escalate, the evidence never appears. When the Diddy documentary reignited attention around the 1990s, Knight's comments found a receptive audience. Old grievances suddenly felt relevant again. His history with Snoop was repackaged as insider truth rather than unresolved bitterness. This is how rumor gains credibility, not through proof, but through repetition, timing, and a familiar voice willing to speak when others stay silent.
50 Cent has been working on this documentary for almost 2 years. The footage he has is insane. The people he got speaking about Diddy is ridiculous. And on top of that, there's an Instagram post. He goes and does the interview about Diddy's documentary on ABC. And they say the reason why he did it on ABC is because ABC news station is one of only few stations they're allowed to watch in prison.
At the center of the documentary's impact was 50 Cent. As the producer, his role was not just creative, but strategic. The documentary framed its narrative tightly around Sean Combs, focusing on allegations, lawsuits, and patterns of behavior that were already part of the public record. It did not attempt to solve past murders or accuse unrelated figures. Its power came from sequencing facts, testimony, and archival material in a way that made the story unavoidable. That approach mattered. 50 Cent has openly acknowledged a long-standing personal distrust of Combs, but he also emphasized that the project was built from existing claims and documented material, not new accusations. Multiple people interviewed in the documentary were not victims or enemies, but industry observers and former associates providing context. Still, perception did the rest. Because 50 Cent has a reputation for provocation, audiences assumed there must be hidden targets. Viewers searched for subliminal messages, cut scenes, and coded references. The idea spread that the documentary was exposing more than it showed. Snoop Dogg publicly supported the documentary. That fact alone contradicts the theory that he was afraid of what might be revealed. If damaging footage existed, backing the project would make little sense. There was no attempt by him to suppress it, challenge it legally, or distance himself from its release. The documentary destabilized one figure, not an entire generation. But in an environment where suspicion drives clicks, restraint was interpreted as guilt, and silence was read as strategy rather than absence of involvement. And as the narrative expanded, the internet went looking for proof that did not exist.
My next guest just testified before a federal grand jury. He says he was in possession of a trove of digital evidence from Diddy's freak-offs and parties. His name is Courtney Burgess, and he says a friend gave him 11 flash drives that belonged to the late Kim Porter. And if you follow this story, you'll know that Kim Porter is Diddy's ex-girlfriend and the mother of 4 of his kids. On those drives, the witness says 8 videos featured 8 celebrities at Diddy freak-offs or parties, and that 6 were males, 2 were females. The drive also included a manuscript of an alleged Kim Porter memoir, a memoir that her 4 kids insist is fake. Courtney Burgess told his story on a podcast before he told the grand jury today, and immediately after, he booked it over to my set, and he and his attorney talked to me. And because The 8 people in the videos, the 8 celebrities in the videos, were allegedly victims of sex crimes. We know who they are, but we will not be naming them, famous or not.
As the theory spread, new evidence began appearing online. Courtney Burgess surfaced claiming he possessed flash drives allegedly belonging to Kim Porter, containing names, messages, and secrets tied to Diddy and people around him. The claims spread quickly, despite no verification. Porter's children publicly stated the material was fake and that their mother's name was being exploited. That denial did not slow the narrative. Social media treated the allegation itself as validation. Screenshots replaced documents. Reaction videos replaced investigation. The absence of authentication was reframed as part of a cover-up rather than a reason for skepticism. Snoop Dogg's name was pulled into this wave without appearing in any of the alleged material. No files were released linking him to crimes. No messages were authenticated. No law enforcement agency confirmed the existence of credible evidence tied to him. Yet his name circulated alongside Diddy's simply because it generated engagement. This is how modern rumor functions. Information no longer needs to be true to spread. It only needs to feel plausible when placed next to unresolved history and familiar faces. Each repost strengthened the illusion of legitimacy, even as the factual foundation remained empty. Meanwhile, official records remained unchanged. No indictments, no subpoenas, no sealed documents quietly surfacing, just online speculation repeating itself across platforms. By this stage, the story had fully detached from verifiable reality. What began as a documentary about one man had become a crowdsourced myth, sustained not by facts, but by attention. And the final piece of the story was hiding in plain sight.
Diddy Combs was back in a New York court where he learned he will stand trial on sex trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He's pleaded not guilty.
Hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs appeared wearing tan prison clothes for the first time in front of the federal judge who's presiding over his case. The 54-year-old Grammy winner was seen smiling, blowing kisses, and gesturing to his family. At yesterday's hearing, prosecutors revealed more indictments could be filed against Combs as the investigation is ongoing.
A superseding indictment is indeed significant because what it may mean are not only more charges, but also the possibility of more alleged victims.
Prosecutors said nearly 100 electronic devices were seized during raids on Combs' homes in Miami and Los Angeles, and at a private airport in Florida. 4 more were taken when Combs was arrested on September 16.
By 2025 and 2026, the contrast was clear. Sean Combs was facing serious legal consequences based on documented allegations, testimony, and federal investigation. That case moved forward through courts, not comment sections. Evidence mattered. Process mattered. Snoop Dogg's situation was the opposite. During the same period, he remained publicly visible, performing, appearing at major events, giving interviews, and continuing business ventures. There were no sealed indictments waiting to drop, no investigative leaks, no law enforcement statements linking him to Combs' charges or any past crimes. If there had been risk, behavior would have changed. It didn't. What kept the rumor alive was not new information, but recycled suspicion, old feuds, old clips, old accusations from people with personal motives. None of it crossed into legal reality. This is where the distinction matters. Guilt by association is not evidence. Proximity is not participation. Being in the same industry, the same era, or the same photographs does not establish wrongdoing. In this case, every claim tying Snoop Dogg to criminal behavior collapses under scrutiny. No documents support it. No testimony confirms it. No footage proves it. What remains is a lesson in how narratives form after a public downfall. When one powerful figure collapses, everyone connected becomes a potential suspect. Algorithms reward suspicion. Engagement favors outrage. Facts become secondary. Strip away the speculation and the story ends simply. One man was prosecuted based on evidence. Another was discussed because the internet wanted a larger villain. So after everything laid out here, evidence versus rumor, facts versus speculation, do you think this story is about accountability or about how quickly the internet assigns guilt by association? Drop your thoughts in the comments and click the video on screen next to go deeper into how other public figures were pulled into controversies that facts never fully supported.